The city never slept, and neither did the small diner on the corner of 5th Street. Inside, under the dull yellow lights, Daniel moved from table to table with a tired smile. He was just a waiter, nothing more, at least that's what people thought. Every day felt the same. Coffee cups, plates of fries, loud laughter, and the sound of coins dropping into the register. Daniel had dreams, but they were locked away, hidden behind the routine of survival. The night was colder than usual, rain tapping against the windows like 1,000 small fingers. Business was slow. Only a few customers sat hunched over their meals. Daniel wiped down the counter when the door creaked open. A tall figure stepped inside, covered in a long dark coat dripping with rainwater. The stranger's hood was pulled low, hiding most of his face. But Daniel noticed one detail. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Not red, not human, but something else. The air in the diner shifted. Silence fell. Even the hum of the jukebox seemed to fade. The few customers froze, whispering nervously. Some grabbed their coats and hurried out. Daniel stood still, cloth in his hand, his instincts telling him something was wrong. But then, he saw it. The stranger's hands were shaking, his steps unsteady, as if he carried the weight of 1,000 storms. Daniel's heart softened. Kindness overtook fear. He walked forward slowly and spoke, his voice calm. "You look cold, sir. Please sit down." The stranger turned his head slightly, those strange eyes glowing brighter for a moment. It was as if he was searching Daniel's face, measuring his soul. Finally, with slow movements, he took a seat in the corner booth, water dripping from his coat onto the floor. Daniel placed a cup of hot coffee in front of him without asking for payment. He also brought a bowl of warm soup, steam rising gently. The stranger lowered his hood just a little, revealing pale skin marked with faint glowing lines. Daniel's breath caught in his throat, but he did not step back. Instead, he simply said, "Eat, it will help." Minutes passed. The stranger's trembling slowed. His shoulders relaxed for the first time. A faint smile tugged at the edge of his mouth, almost human, but not quite. Around them, the diner felt emptier, as if the rest of the world had vanished. Daniel noticed something strange. The glowing lines on the man's skin pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Every time he lifted the spoon, the soup's steam seemed to bend unnaturally, as if drawn to him. It was unsettling. Yet Daniel stayed by his side, watching silently. The stranger finally spoke, his voice low, deep, like thunder far away. "You did not turn me away," he said slowly. "Others run, others fear, but you." He paused, searching for words. "You offered kindness." Daniel swallowed hard, unsure how to answer. "I just thought you needed help," he replied, almost whispering. The stranger tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing slightly, as if he saw something Daniel himself could not. Before Daniel could say more, the man reached into his coat and placed something on the table. It was small, metallic, glowing faintly with a light that was not of this world. The object hummed softly, sending tiny vibrations through the table. Daniel leaned closer, his eyes wide. What is that?" The stranger's lips curved into something between a smile and a warning. "It is not mine anymore," he said firmly. "It belongs to you now." Daniel's chest tightened, his thoughts racing. "To me? But I don't understand." The stranger's gaze hardened, his voice carrying weight like stone. "You will," he said. "One act of kindness can change a destiny, even yours." And with that, he rose from the booth, his coat swaying like a dark shadow. He left a few drops of water and the faint scent of ozone in the air. The bell above the diner's door rang once as he vanished into the storm. Daniel stared at the glowing object on the table, his hands trembling as he reached for it. The hum grew louder, vibrating against his skin, like a heartbeat syncing with his own. The diner was empty now, the silence heavy, broken only by the sound of rain outside. Daniel felt as if the world had shifted, like he had stepped into a story far larger than himself. He picked up the strange object, and in that moment, He felt a spark rush through his veins. Images flashed in his mind. Stars, burning ships, voices speaking in a language he did not know. Daniel stumbled back, gasping, dropping the object onto the counter. The light dimmed. But the hum did not stop. It waited like a living thing. His reflection in the diner window stared back at him. But it was no longer the same ordinary waiter. Something had changed, something he could not name. Daniel stood frozen, his heart pounding, knowing that his quiet life was over. The storm outside grew louder, thunder cracking across the sky. The words of the stranger echoed in his mind. One act of kindness can change a destiny. And Daniel realized, with a chill running down his spine, that his destiny had just begun. The diner was quiet, but Daniel's heart was loud. He could still feel the strange object's hum in his veins. Even though it lay silent on the counter, he wanted to throw it away, to pretend none of this had happened, but his hands wouldn't. Let go. It was small, no larger than his palm, yet it carried a weight that felt heavier than mountains. The glow had dimmed, but every now and then, it pulsed like a heartbeat, matching his own. Daniel tried to calm himself, whispering, "It's nothing, it's just a thing. I'll lock it away and forget." He slid the object into his pocket and returned to wiping the counter, but he couldn't focus. Every sound in the diner seemed louder. The buzz of the lights, the ticking of the clock, the raindrops outside. And in his head, whispers echoed, soft and broken, like voices carried from across the stars. He shook his head, gripping the counter tightly. "I'm imagining it. I'm just tired." That night, when he closed the diner and walked home, the streets were almost empty. The storm had passed, leaving puddles that reflected the pale city lights. Daniel walked fast, his coat pulled tight, his mind replaying the stranger's words again and again. One act of kindness can change a destiny. He tried to laugh it off, but the weight in his pocket reminded him this was no joke. At home, his small apartment felt colder than usual. He tossed the glowing object onto the table and sat on his bed, running his hands through his hair. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered. "I'm just a waiter. I don't want trouble." But trouble had already found him. When he closed his eyes, sleep came quickly, but it did not bring peace. Instead, he dreamed of endless skies filled with stars. He saw ships burning in silent space, warriors locked in battle, voices crying out in languages he didn't understand, and always, in the distance, a shadow loomed, massive, dark, watching. A voice whispered his name, over and over, not in English, yet somehow he understood. Daniel woke with a gasp, sweat covering his skin. The object on the table glowed faintly, as if it had shared the dream with him. He stumbled back, staring at it in fear. His life was slipping out of his control, and he knew it. But before he could think further, there was a knock at his door, slow, heavy, deliberate. Daniel froze. His breath caught in his throat. No one ever visited him this late. The knock came. Again, harder this time, shaking the weak wood of his door. "Mr. Daniel," a voice called, calm but cold. "We need to ask you some questions." Daniel's stomach twisted. He didn't know how they knew his name. Peeking through the peephole, he saw two men in dark suits standing in the hallway. Their faces were blank, their eyes hidden behind glasses, and something about them felt wrong. Not like ordinary government agents, but something else. They spoke in perfect order, no emotion, no hesitation, like machines wearing human faces. Daniel's first instinct was to hide, but he realized, too late, they already knew he was inside. The doorknob rattled as one of them tried to force it. Daniel panicked, grabbing the glowing object from the table. The moment it touched his skin, the hum grew louder, stronger, almost angry. The door cracked under the men's pressure, splinters flying as they shoved against it. Daniel's pulse raced. "What do you want from me?" he whispered, but the object seemed to answer. A sudden flash of light burst from it, filling the room with a blinding glow. The door slammed open at the same moment, but the men staggered back, shielding their eyes. Daniel didn't wait. He bolted. through the small fire escape window, clutching the object tightly. The night air was sharp, his breath heavy as he scrambled down the metal steps. Behind him, the men recovered and shouted, their footsteps echoing against the pavement. Daniel ran through the alleyways, his shoes splashing in puddles, his heart hammering every corner he turned. He expected them to be waiting. Every shadow looked like it was moving. He didn't understand what was happening, only that this gift had dragged him into something dangerous. Finally, he ducked behind a stack of crates, his chest burning from the run. The object glowed faintly, as if alive, as if guiding him. Then he heard footsteps again, but lighter this time, softer, different. From the shadows, a woman stepped forward, tall and calm, her eyes sharp like steel. "You don't know what you carry, do you?" she said in a low voice. Daniel flinched, clutching the object tighter. "Who are you?" She stepped closer, her movements graceful, not threatening, but powerful. "I'm here to help you," she whispered. "That thing chose you, and now you're in danger. More danger than you can imagine." Daniel's hands trembled, his voice shaking. "I don't want it. Take it back." The woman shook her head slowly. "It doesn't work like that. Once it bonds, it never lets go." Her eyes locked onto his. "You showed kindness to someone others would fear, and because of that, you've been chosen." Daniel's mouth went dry, the weight of her words sinking in. Before he could respond, a sharp noise cut through the night. The men in suits had found them, their footsteps closing in fast. The woman grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him to his feet. "We have to move now." Daniel stumbled after her, his mind screaming for answers, his heart pounding with fear. The city lights blurred around him as they ran, but one thought kept repeating in his head. His life as a simple waiter was over. The stranger's gift had changed everything, and whatever destiny had begun that night, it was no longer his to refuse. The city streets were nearly empty, but Daniel's heartbeat was louder than the sound of his shoes striking the pavement. The woman's grip on his arm was firm, pulling him through alleys and narrow paths only she seemed to know. Behind them, the heavy footsteps of the men in black echoed, sharp and steady, like hunters who would never tire. Daniel's lungs burned, every breath cutting into his chest, yet the woman moved as if running was natural, as if she had been doing this her whole life. "Who are they?" Daniel gasped, nearly stumbling. "They are not what they look like," the woman replied quickly, her eyes scanning the shadows. "They wear human skin, but they serve something else, something that wants what you carry." Daniel tightened his grip on the glowing object, its hum vibrating against his palm. "I don't even know what this is," he cried. "You will," she answered, "but first we survive." They darted into an old subway entrance, the rusted gate hanging half-broken. Inside, the air was damp and smelled of dust and iron. The lights flickered weakly above. The woman slowed, finally letting Daniel breathe, but her eyes stayed sharp, alert. Daniel leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. "I'm just a waiter. I don't want this. I don't want any of this." The woman turned to him, her face calm but serious. "And yet it wanted you," she said softly, pointing at the object glowing in his hands. Daniel looked down at it, his reflection bending in its metallic surface. He wanted to drop it, smash it, but the thought of letting go felt impossible, as if the object itself whispered, clung to him, refused to be abandoned. "It's alive," Daniel muttered, his voice trembling. "It feels alive." The woman nodded slowly. "It chose you because you gave kindness, not fear." That act was seen. "And now you're bound to it." Before Daniel could reply, a noise echoed down the subway tunnel. Heavy, steady. The woman's eyes sharpened. She pulled him behind a pillar, whispering, "They're here." From the darkness, two figures stepped into the weak light. The same men in suits, their movements too precise, their heads turning in perfect unison, their voices carried like broken radios. "Cold and mechanical. Return the artifact, human. It is not for you." Daniel's chest tightened, fear clawing at him. The woman whispered, They will not stop. They cannot stop. Unless. Unless what? Daniel asked quickly, his voice barely audible. Unless you use it, she said firmly, her eyes locking onto his. Daniel stared at the object, his hands shaking. How? I don't even know what it does. The woman placed her hand over his, guiding the object closer to his chest. Stop thinking like a servant, she said, her voice low but steady. Think like a protector. The object pulsed, as if it had been waiting for those words. Suddenly, light spilled from its surface, not blinding but pure, spreading across Daniel's arms. He felt energy rushing through him, burning, yet not painful, alive and endless. The men in suits stepped forward, their eyes flashing white, their arms stretching unnaturally as if their bones were not human. One raised his hand, and from his palm came a beam of dark energy that cracked the tiles of the subway floor. Daniel stumbled back, but the object reacted on its own, a shield of shimmering light forming in front of him. The attack struck the shield, sparks flying, the impact shaking Daniel's body. But he stood, trembling yet unbroken. The woman's lips curved into a small smile. See? It listens to you. Daniel gritted his teeth, fear mixing with something new strength. He lifted his hand, the object glowing brighter, and a wave of energy surged outward, throwing the two attackers across the tunnel. They hit the wall, with unnatural cracks, their bodies bending wrong before straightening again. They rose, unhurt, but slower, their perfect suits torn, revealing glimpses of something metallic and inhuman beneath. They're not men, Daniel whispered, horror filling his chest. No, the woman said calmly. They're hunters. The hunters advanced again, their movements jerky but relentless. Daniel wanted to run, but something inside him refused. The same kindness that had made him offer food to a stranger now fueled something else, the refusal to give in. He raised the object again, and this time, the energy responded faster, brighter. A blast of pure light filled the tunnel, knocking the hunters back into the shadows. Their voices hissed in unison. He is marked. He cannot be lost. We will return. Then, like smoke in the wind, they retreated into the dark, their footsteps fading. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Daniel collapsed against the pillar, his body shaking, his heart racing. The object dimmed, but still hummed faintly in his palm. The woman knelt beside him, her eyes steady. You see now, don't you? You can't run from this. Daniel's voice cracked. Why me? I didn't ask for this. I don't want this. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her tone softer. Destiny doesn't ask what you want. It asks who you are. Her words sank deep, chilling him. Above them, faint rumbling shook the tunnel. Daniel looked up, confused. What was that? The woman's eyes darkened, her jaw tight. They are calling reinforcements. Daniel's chest tightened. Reinforcements? You mean more of them? Not just more of them, she said slowly, but what they serve, what they protect. The hum of the object grew louder, as if it already knew, as if it was preparing. Daniel closed his eyes, dread flooding his chest. He had only wanted a normal life, but the chase had begun, and there was no turning back. The subway tunnel grew quiet again, but Daniel could not calm his heart. The glow of the object in his hand faded slowly, its hum soft but constant, like a heartbeat that refused to rest. The woman stood beside him, her sharp eyes scanning the darkness as if she expected the hunters to return any second. Daniel leaned against the cold wall, his voice low and shaking. I don't understand any of this. I'm not a soldier. I'm not special. Why me? The woman finally turned to him, her face serious yet calm. My name is Lyra, she said, her tone softer now. And you are right. You were not chosen for strength, not for training, but for something greater. Daniel frowned, confused. Greater? I'm just a waiter. I serve coffee and clean tables. Lyra shook her head, her eyes fixed on him with certainty. That is what you see. But the object does not see like humans do. It looks into your heart. It measures who you truly are. Daniel looked down at the strange device. its smooth surface reflecting the dim light. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra stepped closer, speaking carefully. "It is called a beacon, an ancient artifact created long before humans walked on Earth. It carries knowledge, power, and connection to something much larger. It can defend, it can destroy, but only with the heart of the one it bonds to." Daniel swallowed hard. "So you're telling me this beacon, it chose me?" "Yes," Lyra answered. "Because when the stranger came to your diner, you showed him kindness when others only showed fear. That act is more powerful than you realize." Daniel rubbed his forehead, the weight of her words pressing down. "So you're saying one small choice changed everything?" Lyra nodded. "That is how destiny works. It is shaped not by the grand gestures, but by the small moments, the hidden ones, the ones that reveal who you truly are." Daniel sat in silence, her words echoing in his mind, but before he could think further, Lyra crouched down, pressing her hand to the cracked subway floor. The ground pulsed faintly, glowing for a moment before dimming again. "They are still tracking us," she whispered. "We cannot stay here," reluctantly. Daniel followed her through the tunnel until they reached a hidden service door. It opened into an abandoned underground station, its walls covered in graffiti and dust. Lyra finally allowed them to rest, sitting on a broken bench. Daniel sank beside her, exhausted, the beacon glowing faintly in his hands. After a long pause, he asked, "Those hunters, what were they?" Lyra's expression hardened. "They are called shades, machines wrapped in human flesh, servants of the warlord who controls the outer stars. They were sent here to find the beacon, for if he gains it, Earth will fall." Daniel felt a cold shiver crawl up his spine. "Earth? You mean all of humanity?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, he has conquered many worlds, enslaved many races, but humanity is different. Unpredictable, dangerous in ways even he cannot measure. That is why the beacon waited here, hidden, waiting for someone like you." Daniel laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "Someone like me? I can't even pay rent on time. I don't fight. I don't lead. I don't—" "You care," Lyra interrupted, her eyes steady. "That is what the beacon seeks, someone who cares more about others than themselves. That is strength no weapon can create." Her words silenced him, and for the first time, Daniel truly looked at the beacon in his hand. It was not just metal, not just technology. It was alive in a way he could not explain. He remembered how it had defended him, how it had listened to his fear and turned it into protection. A thought formed in his mind, one that frightened him. "If it listens to me, then I could use it to fight them, couldn't I?" Lyra's face softened. "Yes, but the beacon is not a weapon of rage. It responds to the heart. If you wield it with hate, it will consume you. But if you wield it with compassion, it will protect not only you, but everyone." Silence fell. Again, heavy with meaning, Daniel felt as if the walls of his old life were collapsing, replaced by something vast and terrifying. He was not ready for this, but it was already too late to step back. Suddenly, the beacon pulsed strongly in his palm, sending a flash of light across the dark station. Lyra's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "They are closer," she hissed. Daniel gripped it tightly. "The shades?" "No," Lyra whispered, her face pale. "Something worse." The ground trembled faintly, dust falling from the ceiling. From the far end of the tunnel, a deep rumble echoed, like engines or thunder. Daniel's chest tightened. "What is it?" Lyra's eyes narrowed. "The warlord has sent a ship into Earth's orbit. They will not stay hidden anymore." Daniel froze, his thoughts spinning. "A ship? You mean aliens are here? Now?" Lyra nodded grimly. "Yes, and they will not leave until they have the beacon." Daniel looked down at the glowing object in his hands, his reflection trembling on its surface. His life as a waiter felt like a dream, distant and unreal. Now the truth stood before him, heavy and unavoidable. He was no longer ordinary. The beacon had chosen him, and the fate of Earth was now tied to his hands. The night sky above Earth was no longer empty. High above the clouds, hidden from most human eyes, a massive alien warship moved slowly into orbit. Its dark hull shimmered with symbols older than human history, each glowing like fire across the stars. Daniel could not see it from the underground station, but he felt it, the beacon in his hands pulsing harder with every second. Lyra stood still, her sharp eyes narrowing as if she could sense the warship even without looking. "They are here," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "The warlord has come to claim the beacon." Daniel's chest tightened, his hands trembling. "Why Earth? Why me? I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know something like this existed." Lyra turned to him, her gaze firm but calm. "Because humanity is untested, and because you made a choice that others would not, you showed compassion, and now all of Earth is measured by that act." Daniel shook his head, stepping back. "That's insane. I'm just a man who brings coffee and cleans tables. I can't represent humanity. I'm not a leader. I'm not a soldier." Lyra's voice grew sharper. "You are wrong, Daniel. Leaders are not born from titles. They are born from moments. This is your moment." Before Daniel could argue, the ground beneath them shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling as the abandoned station groaned like a dying beast. Then a sound filled the air, a deep mechanical roar that made Daniel's bones vibrate. Lyra's eyes widened. "They are sending a message," she whispered. "Listen." And then it came. From every screen, every radio, every device across the world, a voice spoke, not in human language, but somehow understood by every ear. The voice was deep, commanding, cold as the void of space. "People of Earth, surrender the beacon, or watch your world burn." The message repeated again, echoing like thunder across every city, every home, every heart. Daniel's breath caught, the weight of those words pressing down on him, around the world. Panic spread, governments scrambled, soldiers prepared, people prayed, cried, or rioted in the streets. But deep in the underground station, Daniel stood frozen, staring at the beacon as if it had betrayed him. "They're going to destroy Earth. Because of me," he whispered, his voice breaking. Lyra shook her head firmly, stepping closer. "No, Daniel, not because of you, but because of what you represent. The warlord fears what you could become." Daniel looked up, his eyes desperate. "But I can't fight him. I don't even know how this thing works. I don't even know what I'm doing." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice steady. "The beacon responds to who you are, not what you know. Trust it. Trust yourself. That is what it needs." Daniel's throat tightened, tears threatening to fall. "I don't want to be a hero. I just want my life back." Lyra's expression softened, for the first time showing something close to sadness. "I once said those same words," she admitted quietly. "I wanted peace, a normal life, but the warlord took that from me, from my people. And we lost everything because no one stood when it mattered. Do not let Earth suffer the same fate." Her words cut through his fear. Daniel stared at the beacon, the soft glow reflecting in his tired eyes. It was true, he wanted to run, to hide, but deep down he knew running would not save anyone. If he turned away, billions of innocent lives would pay the price. And so, with shaking hands, he whispered, "That I'll stand." The beacon pulsed strongly, as if answering his vow, light spilling across the station walls. Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good, now you begin to understand." But before there was time for more, the walls of the station cracked, splitting like paper under force. Daniel staggered back as pieces of concrete fell. From the broken ceiling above, a massive shadow descended. The ground shook with each step as a towering figure landed before them. He was taller than any man, armored in dark steel that shimmered with alien symbols, his eyes burning like molten fire. Lyra's breath caught, her voice trembling for the first time. "The warlord?" Daniel's blood ran cold, his body refusing to move. The warlord stood still, his presence filling the entire station like a storm of fear. His voice boomed, low and merciless. "So the beacon has chosen a weak human, a servant of food and drink. His laugh was deep, cruel, shaking the air. How pitiful, how fragile, and yet how amusing. Daniel gripped the beacon tightly, his fear turning his hands cold. The warlord stepped closer, the ground cracking beneath his heavy boots. "You will give me what is mine, human," he commanded, his voice sharper, "and I may let your world live a little longer." Daniel's chest heaved, his body screaming to surrender, to survive. But something inside him refused. He thought of the stranger in the diner, of the kindness that had started this, of Lyra's warning, of Earth itself. Slowly, Daniel shook. His head, his voice shaking but clear. "No." The warlord's eyes narrowed, fire burning brighter. Lyra's hand hovered near her weapon, but her gaze was fixed on Daniel. The beacon pulsed, brighter and brighter, until its light filled the entire station. Daniel stood taller, even as his body trembled. The warlord's voice thundered, "Then, you have chosen death." And in that moment, the test of humanity had begun. The warlord shadowed over Daniel. The air grew heavy, thick with a strange pressure that made it hard to breathe. The walls of the underground station trembled, dust falling like rain from above. Daniel's knees felt weak, his body begged him to kneel. But the beacon in his hands pulsed harder, steadying his heart. Lyra stood at his side, her hand ready on her weapon, but even she looked tense, as if she knew this battle was beyond blades and bullets. The warlord's burning eyes scanned Daniel, measuring him like prey. "You are no warrior," he said, his voice shaking the very ground. "You are nothing but a servant, unworthy of the beacon's power." Daniel swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "Maybe I am just a waiter, maybe I don't belong here. But the beacon chose me, and I won't give it to you." The warlord laughed, the sound deep and cruel, echoing through the broken station. "Then you will fall with your people," he growled, raising his armored hand. Dark energy swirled around the warlord's palm, growing into a sphere of pure destruction. Daniel froze, his fear rising like fire, but the beacon answered before he could think. It flared with light, wrapping his body in a shimmering shield that pulsed like a second skin. The warlord released his attack, the blast of dark energy striking Daniel head-on. The shield shuddered, cracking with sparks, but it held, the light pushing back against the darkness. Daniel's breath came fast, his body shaking under the pressure. But he did not fall. Lyra's eyes widened, her voice almost proud. "You see, Daniel? You are stronger than you believe." Daniel gritted his teeth, gripping the beacon tighter. He had spent his whole life unnoticed, invisible in the world. But now the eyes of Earth and beyond would soon look at him. The thought filled him with fear, but also with something else, something stronger. The warlord roared in anger, his massive form lunging forward, his blade of black steel striking down. Daniel raised his hand, the beacon flashing, and a burst of pure energy exploded. Outward, the blade stopped inches from Daniel's head. Sparks flying as light clashed against darkness. The ground shook violently, cracks spreading across the station floor. Daniel cried out, pushing with everything he had, and the warlord stumbled back one step, his fiery eyes narrowing in rage. For the first time, Daniel realized something. The warlord was powerful, but not unstoppable. The beacon's light wrapped around him, flowing into his veins, his fear slowly transforming into courage. This was no longer just survival. It was a stand, a choice, a fight not only for himself, but for everyone. The warlord snarled, "You cannot win. Human, you are weak, fragile, soft." Daniel's chest rose, his voice clear and firm. "Maybe I am soft, but that's why I'm strong, because I care. And you will never understand that." The beacon blazed brighter, filling the station with a light so strong it erased every shadow. The warlord staggered, his dark armor cracking slightly under the force. Lyra's eyes widened in shock, whispering, He's hurting him." Daniel stepped forward, his legs still shaking, but his heart steady. He raised his hand again, the beacon glowing like a star, and sent another wave of light surging toward the warlord. The alien warlord braced himself, roaring as the blast hit him, tearing pieces of his armor apart, but he did not fall. His voice thundered through the chaos. "You will break before I do." Daniel felt the strain. His body burning, his vision blurring, the beacon's energy flowed through him like fire. But it demanded more than he thought he had. He wanted to collapse, but he saw images flash before his eyes. The people in the diner, the families outside, Earth itself, all depending on him. His fear turned into determination. He shouted, his voice echoing, "I will not let you win." The beacon answered, exploding in a massive burst of light that shook the entire city above. Windows shattered, lights flickered. People across the streets looked up, their skies glowing with strange brilliance. For a brief moment, humanity itself witnessed the battle hidden beneath their feet. The warlord roared in pain, his dark armor breaking apart piece by piece, glowing cracks spreading across his body. He stumbled, his massive frame shaking. But still he stood, fury burning in his eyes. Daniel fell to one knee, his body trembling, sweat dripping down his face. The beacon's light dimmed for a moment, almost fading. Lyra rushed forward, steadying him, her voice firm. "Hold on, Daniel. You're not alone. The beacon chose you, but it also chose humanity. Feel it. You carry their hope." Daniel lifted his head, his tired eyes glowing faintly with the beacon's light. Slowly, he rose again, standing tall despite his pain. The warlord growled, his voice sharp with fury. "You cannot stop me. No human can." Daniel's voice came soft but steady. "Maybe not every human, but this one can try." He raised the beacon high, its light surging once more, brighter than ever before. The warlord braced for the strike, his dark energy gathering again. The underground shook violently, walls collapsing, stone and steel falling all around. And in the center of it all, one man, once just a simple waiter, stood tall, facing the strongest enemy in the galaxy. The clash of light and darkness filled the ruins, shaking Earth itself. The battle was far from over, but Daniel no longer felt like a servant. He was a protector, and he would not bow. Not now, not ever. The station shook like it was about to collapse. Stone and steel rained down as the light of the beacon clashed against the darkness of the warlord. The ground cracked open, sparks and fire spreading through the ruins. Daniel stood in the center, his arms raised high, the beacon glowing brighter than ever. His body trembled with exhaustion, every muscle screaming to stop. But his heart refused to give in. The warlord roared, his dark armor breaking apart piece by piece, glowing cracks spreading across his massive frame. "You cannot win, human," he thundered, his voice shaking the air. "You are fragile, you are weak, you are nothing." Daniel's breath was heavy, his chest heaving, but his voice came clear. "Maybe I am weak, maybe I am small, but I'm human, and that means I fight for more than myself." The beacon pulsed at his words, its glow expanding like wings of pure light. For a brief moment, Daniel felt connected to everything, the people above, the stars beyond, even the pulse of Earth itself. It was as if the beacon was no longer just in his hand, but inside his very soul. The warlord staggered, his fire-filled eyes narrowing. "No, this is impossible." Daniel stepped forward, each step echoing like thunder. "You conquer worlds with fear, but you will never conquer kindness." With one final cry, Daniel raised the beacon high, its light erupting in a wave that shook the entire city. The explosion of brilliance swallowed the warlord, tearing through his armor, burning away his shadow. The alien warlord screamed, his voice shaking the walls as his massive body cracked apart. Dark energy burst from him like shattered glass, vanishing into the air. And then, with one final roar, he fell to his knees, before collapsing into nothing but broken fragments of armor and fading ash. Silence followed, heavy and endless. The ground stopped trembling, the falling debris slowed, the air became still. Daniel fell to one knee, gasping, his body nearly Broken, the beacon dimming in his hand like a candle at the end of its flame, Lyra rushed to his side, steadying him, her voice soft but filled with awe. "You did it, Daniel. You truly did it." Daniel looked at her weakly, shaking his head. "No, we did it. All of us." Above the ruins, the night sky lit up as the alien warship trembled in orbit. Without their leader, without the beacon, the shades lost their strength, their voices fading into static. Across the earth, people watched as the dark ship pulled back, retreating into the void of space. For the first time in history, humanity had faced an alien threat and survived. Daniel lay back against the rubble, his chest rising and falling slowly. The beacon rested in his hands, dim but warm, almost alive. He whispered, his voice weak, "Is it over?" Lyra looked to the sky, her eyes narrowing. "This battle, yes, but not the war. The warlord is gone, but others will come. They always do." Daniel closed his eyes, breathing slowly. "Then I'll be ready." Time passed. The ruins were cleared. The city above repaired. News spread like wildfire. Whispers of the strange light, the retreating ship, the mysterious savior no one could name. But Daniel did not seek fame. He returned quietly to his small diner. The counter was the same. The yellow lights still buzzing. Customers still ordering coffee and fries. To them, he was just Daniel, the waiter, nothing more. And Daniel liked it that way. But deep down, he knew he was no longer ordinary. Every time he held a coffee cup, every time he smiled at a stranger, he felt the beacon's faint hum inside him. It was always there, a reminder that one act of kindness had changed everything. Lyra visited sometimes, sitting quietly in the corner booth, her sharp eyes always watching. She never said much, but when she looked at Daniel, there was respect in her gaze. She knew what he had done, and she knew he would be needed again. One night, as Daniel closed the diner, he placed the chairs on tables and locked the door. The beacon sat on the counter, glowing faintly, waiting. Daniel picked it up, holding it close. "I don't know why you chose me, but I won't fail you." The beacon pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat in answer. And then, in the silence of the empty diner, a whisper echoed in his mind. Not his own, but ancient and vast. "This is only the beginning." Daniel's breath caught, his eyes widening. He looked out the window at the stars, their light stretching far. Beyond human reach, the world thought he was just a waiter. But the universe knew different. His destiny had only just begun.